Every story appears ordinary until you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
A very good evening to you and welcome to CoreTV Primetime News. I am Nenna Oragwa. On our top stories tonight. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. And our first story, President Muhammadu Buhari's appeal to the Niger Delta Avengers to shun the vandalism in order not to scare away potential investors from the country. President Buhari made his appeal while breaking his Ramadan fast to the leadership of the All Progressive Congress at the Aso Rock Villa. State House correspondent Abiola Oluwole has more on the story.
The daily Ramadan fast-breaking exercise is a platform for President Buhari to fraternize with stakeholders across sectors of the nation. Being the turn of the national leadership of his party, germane national issues were expected to be discussed. For the president, it's an opportunity to appeal to the Niger Delta Avengers to sheath their sword in the interest of the nation. He says, acts of vandalism will do nothing but scare away investors from the nation.
It is submitted to the financial institutions of the country and ask for money to come and invest. No insurance company will ensure the installation 3 quarters done and get blown up. And no financial institution will agree to finance this. So for those of you who have plans, either about the leadership or the militants themselves, please, in the name of God Almighty, let them take it easy.
For the national chairman of the party, John Udigi Oyegun, President Buhari has done well since assuming office by providing the needed leadership for the country.
A leader that is strong enough, courageous enough, principled enough to stand his ground in these difficult times. Because things must change. The way we do things must change. Learning right from wrong must become established as part of the basic psyche of the Nigerian society.
As these party leaders depart the Aso Rock Villa, ensuring consistent engagement with members of their communities, according to the president, would assist in dousing the security challenge in parts of the country. From the presidential villa in Abuja, Abiola Oluwole reporting for CoreTV News.
Meanwhile, the militant group Niger Delta Avengers has asked President Muhammadu Buhari to visit the Niger Delta region so as to see for himself what the people are passing through, despite the huge revenue from the region. In a statement signed by the spokesman of the group, the Modish Agbibongo, the group laments the underdevelopment of the region. The statement points out that the presidency needs to visit some of the host communities of multinational firms to have a first-hand judgment of what the people have been subjected to for many years. Alleged 2010 Independence Day Burma Charles Oka, who has been in detention since 2010, have been reported to have escaped from prison detention. Report says Oka escaped from Kuje prison in Abuja during a jailbreak on Friday night. The Nigerian Prison Service has, however, denied the escape, insisting that Oka is still in detention. The Public Relations Officer of the service, Francis Enoboro, disclosed there was an incident at the prison on Friday night, but added that it had nothing to do with the leader of the movement for the emancipation of Niger Delta, Charles Oka, who he said is safe and sound. Enoboro further discloses that the controller of prisons has ordered an investigation, adding that the service will release a statement once a preliminary investigation has been completed. The Acting Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, has ordered policemen and officers, especially those in the mobile units, to rise up and nip the security challenges in the country in the bud. Idris said this at a passing out parade of Squadron Commanders Seminar Combat Operation Course at the Police Mobile Force Training School, Ilarago. The new IG identified corruption as a factor holding back the police from performing primarily, but promised to tackle this issue for a better delivery. He said he will consolidate on the solid foundation built by his predecessor by using the IGP monitoring unit and X-Squad to ensure that the root cause of corruption is exterminated. The IGP pointed out that as part of measures to stop corruption and in line with the anti-corruption mantra, the administration would ensure that all commissioned officers from the rank of assistant superintendents of police to the IGP declare their assets. The National Association of Resident Doctors of Nigeria suspended its nationwide indefinite strike effective from 8 a.m. on June 27. The association's president, Muhammad Askira, who disclosed this at a news conference in Abuja, says the decision was reached following the intervention of the Speaker, House of Representatives Yakubu Dogara, and other stakeholders. A correspondent, Basil Okafor, has more.
The resident doctors had embarked on the strike June 9 to press home their demands, which bordered on unpaid salaries, skipping and all accrued arrears for doctors yet to be implemented in most hospitals across the country. The suspension of the action was at the instance of the intervention by the Speaker, House of Representatives Yakubu Dogara, who along with other stakeholders asked that they allow government implement the agreement reached with the association.
In view of the genuine intervention of the Honorable Speaker and other key stakeholders, now hereby suspend the ongoing nationwide indefinite strike action so as to enable the government implement the agreements reached within the agreed time frame.
They have also been debunking media reports that the federal government had commenced recruitment of doctors in order to replace the striking doctors.
In Nigeria, you have one doctor to about 10,000 population. The recommended number is 1:600 population by WHO for developing nation like Nigeria. What you need is to have an additional 235,000 more doctors.
The medical practitioners are equally lamenting government failed promises after assuring the doctors of its readiness to heed to their demands. Basil Okafor, CoreTV News, Abuja.
Meanwhile, the one-on strike embarked in by the joint health sector unions, JHASU, might turn into an indefinite one if the demands made by them are not met by the federal government. The unions made this known in Lagos while intimating the public on the plight of all federal health institutions since the one-on strike started on June 22, with a plea to the federal government to obey court judgments and agreements reached with the unions. Our correspondent, Aki Obakeye, has more.
The National Orthopedic Hospital, Igbobi, Lagos, is a ghost of itself as health activities has been in its lowest since the commencement of a nationwide strike by health workers. The warning strike embarked upon by the 5 unions, which made up the joint health sector unions, is a national one.
There is going to be a breakdown of these things. The patients are at the receiving end. If you go around the hospitals, I'm not talking only for Lagos here. Go to the north, go to the east. Everywhere is deserted.
The JSU resolved to give further ultimatum, which the federal government did not respond to up to this moment before a 7-day warning strike was declared on the 23rd of June 2016.
The unions that make up JSU, they are not interested in bringing affliction on the patient. and that was why they tagged it warning strike. They have tried as much as possible to see how to avoid this strike.
One of the grievances is the dichotomy between medical doctors and other health workers. The unions, however, appeal to the government to implement these agreements.
This is a 7 days warning strike, and we are appealing to the federal government of Nigeria to please do something to bring to an end this warning strike so that it does not culminate into an indefinite strike.
With resident doctors halting its strike action and the emergence of another strike action by Johesu, the Nigerian health sector, according to observers, needs total overhauling as ordinary Nigerians bear the burns of this industrial action.
JSU is open to further discussion on other issues which are pending, and these issues are need for uniform guidelines for the appointment of chief medical directors, chief medical advisory committee, and deputy chairman medical advisory committee of our tertiary institutions.
As far as health workers are concerned, it is ground zero. 7 days warning strike to the federal government stating their demands. Now, this includes emergency points. Every single aspect of all national hospital, all federal government-owned hospital has been grounded. One can only call on both the federal government and the Joint Health Workers Association to ensure that they come to a resolution, because a lot of lives are at risk. Patients are being discharged to go to find other alternatives. Here at the National Orthopedic Hospital, Akin Obakeye, CoreTV News, Lagos.
Away from the health sector, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has urged Nigeria and the entire African continent to join the global digitalization train so as not to be left behind. He made a call at the end of the 6th African Digital TV Development Seminar in the Chinese capital. The minister says a successful transition would spin-off benefits far beyond broadcasting, as it would put many of the country's youth to work, provide a platform for their creativity to blossom. Mohammed notes that it is in realization of the far-reaching benefits of the DSO that African ministers in charge of information and communication who attended the forum have agreed on the need for a continental synergy and the sharing of experiences in order to facilitate a successful switch over across the continent. Reiterating the significance of DSO, the minister says, and I quote, "The digital switch over is a global project. Many countries that have concluded their DSO are already reaping the benefits accruing therefrom. Africa cannot afford to lag too far behind." End of quotes. Also, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has urged the Chinese authorities to facilitate the showing of Nigerian films on television and in seminars across the Asian countries, part of efforts to strengthen the relations between the two countries. The minister made a call in Beijing when he paid a courtesy visit to the Chinese Vice Minister of State for Radio, Television and Film, Wu Changzi, in his office. He also called for the immediate implementation of the co-production agreement signed between Nigeria and China and the sharing of experience in combating piracy of movies. Mohammed promised that under his watch, the existing cooperation between Nigeria and China in the areas of information and culture will be strengthened, while new vistas of opportunities will be opened for the benefit of both nations. Responding, Wu said his country is willing to strengthen the cooperation with Nigeria, especially in the area of films, adding that the two channels of showing movies in this country will be explored for Nigerian films. At least 8.4 million Nigerians will benefit from the federal government's social intervention project. The federal advisor to President Muhammadu Buhari's Social Protection Plan, Mariam Uwais, disclosed this during the workshop on the National Social Protection Policy Framework. She explained that the Special Protection Project is designed for delivery under 5 clearly defined programs to restore livelihoods, economic opportunities and sustenance for the poor. Uwais said the plan is being designed to include an effective monitoring and evaluation system. The 5 core programs of the government social protection policy include empowerment to create jobs for graduates and non-graduates, the homegrown school feeding program for school pupils, the cash transfers, enterprise and empowerment program, and the STEM bursary program. Issues bordering on the provision of an affordable housing system is once again on the front burner with the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola. Fashola appears before the Senate Committee on Housing to discuss all machineries being put in place to ensure that the ministry delivers mass and affordable housing to all Nigerians. Our correspondent, Kozim Kasali, has more.
The Power, Works and Housing Minister, in his address to the 10th Annual Business Law Conference by the Section on Business Law of the Nigerian Bar Association, says the federal government is making informed choices to correct mistakes made in the past through purpose-driven provision of infrastructure. He notes that this will be a long-haul process that will require the patience of all concerned and the review of the nation's law. He advocates for a mix of public-private partnership, privatization and borrowing to finance infrastructure projects outside of what the federal government is doing in its yearly budgetary cycle.
You can't provide for a number you don't know what it really is. How many people need the infrastructure? How many babies are being born so that we can prepare maternity wards? If we don't have the data, we are just going to fall short.
The panel of experts put together by the Nigerian Bar Association, in its reply to the minister's submission, led by Aminu Diko and Kayode Oyinloye, called for a more robust approach to some of the issues in his speech with some suggestions.
Then we talk about coherent planning. And planning implies that we would know what projects are available to the government, to the private sector. The private sector wants to know at all times what is the stability of these projects.
We're beat in a hurry. We need about 1.2 or 1.3 million kilometers of road if we are going to have Nigeria as top 20 economy in 2020 that we had envisioned before.
The minister, however, in responding to questions, expresses the willingness of the ministry to work with all stakeholders to develop the sector, but also says reforms are needed, especially to ensure that local governments are able to take care of the 67% of the nation's road which belongs to them.
We have the largest share of roads. Perhaps the kind of financial support that they need tallies with the point that you have made. But there's also a lot of encroachment of local government revenues by states and federal government. An area that comes to mind is advertising, because that is their designated responsibility within the Constitution.
The minister also expresses that the need for scheduled and unscheduled maintenance of the nation's road will lead to a better road experience by users and help in ensuring that the nation fulfills its obligations in terms of climate change. Kozim Kasali, CoreTV News, Abuja.
We sincerely apologize for that mix-up there. That was a report on the Minister of Power speaking on infrastructure deficit. Now we'll bring you the report on the Senate. The Minister of Power appearing at the Senate House.
The House of Representatives is recommending to the Minister of Interior, Abdurrahman Dambazo, to deport Messrs. In Sun Moon, Lee Bong-woon, and Lee Yong-jong of the Hyundai Heavy Industry Limited Company on the grounds of violation of the Nigerian Oil and Gas Content Development Act 2010. Chairman House Committee on Local Content made the statement during the hearing by the committee at the National Assembly. He says the decision to invite the immigration is as a result of serious infractions committed by Hyundai Heavy Industry Limited.
Appearing in the National Assembly again is the Power, Works and Housing Minister on a mission to explain to the Senate Committee on Housing what is being done in the sector to speed up the provision of mass and affordable housing to vulnerable Nigerians. In his submission before the committee, the minister discloses that a lot is being done for the development of the sector, from designing, standardization of designs and acquisition of land. The movement is on for the delivery of mass and affordable housing to vulnerable Nigerians. He notes that he is not focused for now on the number to be delivered, but on getting it right so as to ensure sustainability and success. The issue of land acquisition is being addressed.
We are depending on the states to provide land. We are asking for a minimum of 5 hectares of land and a maximum of 10 hectares. We're trying to conceptualize communities where we can lay out these houses and create sustainable living environments that is integrated
so that they do not become slums.
Committee Chairman Benabas Gemadi calls for more to be done to address the issues in the sector, but adds that the committee will work with the ministry to achieve success in the sector.
See and heard several delivery models in the past introduced by the Ministry of Housing, some which we hear are working, others are not working, and it's therefore important for us to know.
The committee also says going forward, the budget for the ministry needs to be streamlined so as to forestall a repeat of the rush in the preparation of the 2016 budget. Kozim Kasali, CoreTV News, Abuja.
Committee on Local Content have added the repatriation of 3 Chinese expatriates with flagrant disregard for the extant laws of the country. The committee says no one will be allowed to break the laws of the country irrespective of who they are or where they come from, as the laws of the country are sacrosanct. National Assembly correspondent Emmanuel Ehijene has the reports.
The House of Representatives is recommending to the Minister of Interior, Abdurrahman Dambazo, to deport Messrs. In Sun Moon, Lee Bong-woom and Lee Yong-jong of the Hyundai Heavy Industry Limited Company on the grounds of violation of the Nigerian Oil and Gas Content Development Act 2010. Chairman House Committee on Local Content made the statement during the hearing by the committee at the National Assembly. He says the decision to invite the immigration is as a result of serious infractions committed by Hyundai Heavy Industry Limited Company.
Based on our investigation and that of Immigration Services, that the committee hereby directs that the Minister of Interior and the Controller General of Immigration deport the following HHI officials.
Briefing the press after the hearing on the activities of the committee, he says the action is in line with his oversight functions.
It is our job to oversight, and on oversighting, if we spot out this kind of infraction, then we now let immigration go in and investigate. And on this case, I would say the immigration has done very well, because how proactive the CG was on this matter has brought us to where we are today.
The committee is planning to invite the Department of State Security, Federal Inland Revenue Service, and the Accountant General of the Federation to investigate and audit the activities and finance of the company since its inception in the country. If found culpable, it will recommend to the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation that HHI and the subsidiaries lack the capacity to operate in the Nigerian oil industry. It will be recalled the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDMB, had earlier given HHI conditions to renew its expatriate quota or obtain a new one, but it has reneged on it. Emmanuel Ehijene, CoreTV News, Abuja.
It's still CoreTV Primetime News. We'll take a break now. When we return, more stories. Stay with us.
You know, Angela, that's a very difficult question.
It is difficult to respond to that question.
Angela, that's a great question.
Great question, Angela.
Angela, that is a very great question.
That's a great question, Angela.
Okay, that's a great question.
Yeah, very good question.
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
That's an interesting question.
This is an interesting question you pose.
60 Minutes with Angela. Gain answers to every question you always wanted to ask.
Glad to have you back. If you just joined us, it's still CoreTV Primetime News. A quick recap of our top stories. For these top stories and more about news stories, join us on our social media platforms, facebook.com/CoreTV News. On Twitter @CoreTV News NG. And on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/CoreTV Liver Space News. The Nigerian Army has denied the media report that the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, and his two wives acquired a property in Dubai and paid for it in a single transaction. In a statement today, the Acting Director, Army Public Relations, Colonel Sani Usman, discloses that while it is true that the Buratai family had two properties in Dubai, they were bought with personal savings in 2013. Usman said the army chief consistently declared the properties along other properties in his asset declaration form as commander, multinational joint task force, and the chief of army staff. Described the report as a smear campaign which was designed to malign the image of the chief of army staff. Usman also described as untrue the claim that the huge amounts were being paid into an account owned by the COAS at Skybank, pointing out that Buratai had no account with the bank and had not been involved in any shady transaction and contract scam. Over 30 persons have been confirmed dead in Donga local government area of Taraba State following the various degrees of injuries they sustained from snake bite ravaging the area. 6 villages in Donga local government have been affected with these mysterious snake bites. Our correspondent, Uduak Godwin, brings us more.
Suntai, Kadako, Todamasi, Akate, Gumbo, and Kayama villages in Donka local government area of Taraba State are going through a tough time as they have to live with the fear of snake bite. The villagers whose preoccupation is farming say they now live in fear, especially when going to their farmland. So far, over 30 persons have been killed by injuries sustained from the snake bite, and several others are receiving treatment at the hospital and some herbal homes. The survivors and relations of the dead have been telling their stories and are calling on appropriate authorities to do the needful.
But I myself, the thing bite me is too far in the night. But I work and I enter my house. And that's my brother take me to that place. But the thing can't pay me. But now I recover.
The snakes look like sand. You find it difficult to differentiate between the snake and the sand. 3 snakes can be found in one place while tilling the ground. I've been able to kill 4 of it.
The anti-venom is cased in the hospital, and a lot of victims take rescue with the traditional herbalist.
The drug, like in Donga, they usually buy it around 10 to 11,000 per vial. The cost is actually much. And the presentation also is what determines the outcome.
For now, I have 11 people in my custody. When brought in within 4 minutes of the snake bite, I treat and discharge them immediately. But if it is up to 6 hours, it takes 2 days for them to be discharged.
A few of the snake bite victims are being attacked at homes and others at their farms, and they are helpless in this situation as farming is their major source of livelihood, especially as the rainy season sets in.
The situation is scary, and children are prohibited from going out. Please, let the government not get tired of us. Let them come to our rescue.
We treated some, but some could not be treated. They lost their lives. I am now calling on the medical personnel and also the state government to come to our aid.
It is not certain what kind of snakes they are, but many are of the opinion that they come as a result of non-farming activities in the previous year due to crises that have rocked the area. From Donga local government area, Udwa Godwin, CoreTV News.
Cassava has been identified as one of the major crops that can generate revenue and create employment opportunities for many in the face of the dwindling economy of the nation. This view is expressed by some stakeholders in Taraba, and governments plan to diversify the economy of the country through agriculture. Our correspondent, Uduak Godwin, has details of the story.
Farming had in the past remained Nigeria's main source of revenue generation, especially with the production of major crops such as groundnuts, cocoa, rubber, and cassava, among others. With the discovery of petroleum, Nigeria shifted its attention to depending largely on exporting crude oil as major source of revenue. As oil prices continue to fall at the international market, governments at all levels are now diversifying their economy through agriculture with a view to boosting revenue generation.
Under proper management, cassava can offset a lot of economy of Nigeria. We will be able to travel because engaging of the applicant with all this production of the many students coming from the school, they will be encouraged.
In fact, I'm calling on the government of Taraba State to intervene. They should create farm settlement for our youth. They should diversify the area. Let the government go into agriculture by providing the necessary place where you can have a settlement.
Cassava is one of the major crops. Experts say, if fully supported, has the capability of generating more revenue to the government, as well as providing job opportunities for the teeming unemployed members of the country, thereby reducing over-dependence on government.
We want the government to assist the farmers, especially in the farm inputs. There are some certain new products of cassava, like 419, we have 516 and 581.
You make flour out of this cassava. People can eat, a lot of revenue will come out of it. We can export. Because I recall very well that traders from Kano, Katsina, come in here to buy our flour. And before you go in there, they've already booked it. That's to say that money is there. There is money lying there.
They maintained that if government at all levels supports the farming of this crop with the necessary farm inputs, it will aid to boost production and earnings.
The Central Bank of Nigeria and the Nigerian Export-Import Bank is kickstarting a 500 billion naira loan scheme for SMEs in the export sector. At the Stakeholders Forum in Lagos, representatives have voted the CBN and Exim Bank enlighten exporters on the new export finance facilities, which will run for a period of 10 years. Our correspondent, Akin Obake, completes the story.
With several loan schemes made available to exporters over the years by the Central Bank of Nigeria, the 500 billion naira export stimulation facility is geared at reviving the non-oil export sector in the country. Speaking at a stakeholders forum where the Nigerian Export-Import Bank enlightens exporters on how to tap into the refinancing facility and the export stimulation facility to boost the non-oil sector, representative of Exim Bank sheds light on the scheme.
The facility by the guidelines is well designed and is targeted at export-oriented companies. So in the eligibility criteria, we want to make sure that even when you apply, applicants that are not export-oriented will be disqualified.
Regional coordinator of Exim Bank believes the new export finance facilities, unlike other loan schemes in the past, is what the export sector needs.
The NEPC alone cannot face it. That's why the synergy of this funding is coming up. With the CBN coming up with this funding arrangement, it makes our job easier because there are quite a number of products to be developed there. But because of funding, cost of funding, it's difficult to scale up production, it's funding.
Exporters present believe it is a great step and urge more support to the non-oil sector.
There are a lot of challenges exporters from Nigeria are facing to impact positively on that. So I think with this intervention now, a lot of exporters that can export to the US and other parts of the world can have access to funding.
The sponsors are promising that the loan facility will get to the target beneficiaries to bridge the gap of poor financing for exporters. Akin Obakeye, CoreTV News, Lagos.
Nollywood actors have called on Nigerians and Africans to appreciate its different cultures. They also advocate the need for parents to encourage children to learn to speak their original languages and less of the borrowed languages. Our correspondent, Victoria Solomon, has more in this report.
Going down memory lane, one could say the African culture stood its ground and was appreciated till westernization took over. African movies served as tool for instilling discipline and preserving morals. The Yoruba movie industry is in the capacity to interpret the lessons and teachings embedded in its culture, but it seems much has not been done.
Things are evolving, like they'll say we are now in the new century. A time will come, they'll still come back and watch them. We will continue making them, irrespective of the fact that people are not really watching them. But we have a large fan base.
When we are talking of Yoruba films, nowadays we now have translations. So when we produce any film, then it's been translated into many languages. So we are proud of being a Yoruba actor, but at the same time, we are now internationally accepted.
Others believe that producers and directors have more to do.
One thing I believe is this: maybe personally, we artists, maybe we don't just put more effort to let them recognize us more.
I always ask my fellow producers or actors to step up our game. If your film is not selling, then it means it's not making sense. We will not say because it's our culture, force it on people. You have to produce good films. You have to do things that people will appreciate. So we should not think we should just force things through their throats.
Another believes that Nigerians must embrace its culture and not shy away from it.
I think it's something that has to do with Africa generally, and especially my people, Yoruba people. We have to keep on pushing it. We have to keep on saying to our people that this language is important and it's all we've got.
Our culture should reflect in everything that we do. Our children should be used to it. In most homes, our children are not speaking Yoruba again. Even when they speak, oh my God, you'll be asking, what did you say? Because we have so much borrowed other languages and we've forgotten about Abinibi, that thing they call Ibile.
From all indications, the movie industry shares a large percentage in ensuring that cultures are passed on from one generation to another. To avoid cultural extinction, local contents must be appreciated. Victoria Solomon, CoreTV News, Lagos.
Still ahead on CoreTV Primetime News, Pope Francis urges Armenia and Turkey to lay aside the differences. Bring you details of this and more stories after this break. So stay with us.
CoreTV News now live on all Androids.
Welcome to CoreTV Primetime News.
Download CoreTV News app from your Play Store. Click on the menu to see all our top stories from politics, sports, business, foreign news and live TV to watch us live on your mobile.
I want to know why I should be believing them.
You can also click on video to see all our YouTube videos. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
Glad to have you back. On the foreign scene, Islamist group Al-Shabaab has attacked a hotel in the Somali capital, Mogadishu, causing fatalities. Officials say a vehicle bomb was detonated at a gate of the Nassau Hablood Hotel before armed men entered the building. The men then fired on people and reportedly took hostages. A spokesman for the group discloses that it had attacked the hotel frequently by the Upper State government members. Al-Shabaab militants have frequently carried out attacks in the city in their bid to topple the Western-backed government. Hundreds of people stranded by floods have been rescued in West Virginia, with the death toll now standing at 23. Officials say rescue workers are set to continue throughout the weekend, pointing out that more victims may be found as a search through the rubble. The state governor, A.L. Ray Tomblin, says the floods are the worst in a century in some areas, describing it as widespread and devastating. The National Weather Service discloses that West Virginia received a quarter of its annual rainfall in a single day. More than 100 homes have been destroyed, some of them torn from their foundations and carried away. An estimated 66,000 residents are without power. Pope Francis has called on neighbors Armenia and Turkey to lay aside their differences and take up the path of reconciliation. During an ecumenical prayer service in the Armenian capital, Yerevan, the Pope expressed his hopes for peace in the Caucasus region. Pope Francis calls on the younger generation to actively engage in building the culture of encounter and reconciliation. Earlier on, Pope Francis paid his respect to Armenian massacre victims during a visit to the Tsikane Kabed Memorial Complex in Yerevan. EU states have urged Britain to hold speedy talks in leaving the bloc after it voted to end its membership in a historic referendum. German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier said negotiations should begin as soon as possible. He disclosed this after an urgent meeting of the 6 EU founder members to discuss the decision. The 6 countries attended the summit in Berlin. Germany, France, Italy, Belgium, Luxembourg and the Netherlands were the first joined forces in the 1950s and still form the core of the EU. His Dutch counterpart, Bert Koenders, said the continent could not accept a political vacuum, saying it would not be business as usual. Meanwhile, Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon says she will seek immediate discussions with Brussels to protect Scotland's place in the EU. The UK's European Commissioner Lord Hill is to stand down after the UK voted to leave the European Union. In a statement, the Commissioner discloses that he did not believe it was right for him to carry on with his work as a Commissioner in charge of financial services. He however added that he will stay on for a period of weeks to ensure an orderly handover. A close ally of Prime Minister David Cameron, Lord Hill had argued for the UK to remain in the EU. European commissioners are among the most powerful officials in Brussels, with ability to make laws across a range of policy areas, but the UK will cease to have one when it leaves the EU. We now move on to sports.
Power style, and that's what he delivered.
England has completed the series whitewashed Australia with a victory in Nepal set in third and final test in Sydney. The Wallabies led by a point at half-time, courtesy of the boots of Bernard Foley, after Dan Cole and Mike Brown had crossed for England and Foley and Dane Haylet's Petty for the host. Michael Hooper and Israel Foley tries cancelled out a bully Vunipula score. But Owen Farrell's boots kept England in touch, and Jamie Judge's try helped them to a record score and a 3-0 win. It was England's biggest ever points total against the Wallabies and ended them the first 3-0 series win by a tyrant side in Australia since South Africa in 1971. Wales reached the quarter-finals of Euro 2016 as Gareth McCauley's own goal gave them victory over Northern Ireland in a tense second-round encounter. Northern Ireland shackled their opponents with a resolute defensive display and mastered the only 2 shots on target in a goalless first half. However, the resistance came to a cruel end when veteran centre-back McCauley turned Gareth Bale's low, whipped cross into his own net. Playing in their first major tournament since the 1958 World Cup, Wales will now face Belgium or Hungary in the last 8 in Lille on Friday. And finally, Poland will meet Croatia of Portugal in the quarterfinals of Euro 2016 after beating Switzerland on penalties in the first knockout game of the tournament. Arsenal newcomer Granit Xhaka was the only player to miss in the shootout, with Glasgow's Krychowiak scoring the winning spot kick for the Poles. Jakub Blasik-Kowicki had put Poland ahead 6 minutes before halftime. Switzerland hit back through Xherdan Shaqiri's sublime finish, an overhead kick from 18 yards. And that's it on CoreTV Primetime News. But before we go, a quick recap of our top stories. Thank you very much for staying with us tonight. I am Nena Oragwa. Do have a beautiful night rest.